Hi, Booktube. Well, as May is fast approaching, I wanted to sit down and share with you all the books I plan to read in May. It's nice and bright and sunny outside, and so I thought it was very fitting to think about May and summer that's fast approaching. I feel like we've definitely turned a corner with the weather, and all the cloudy and gloomy weather that we've been having is hopefully in the past, and bright sunny days are here. So speaking of that, I have a stressful and very long trip coming up at the beginning of May. I'm going from Portland, Oregon to Miami, Florida. So the travel is quite extensive, around like 15 hours each way from my house to the hotel. So I am going to have lots of reading time in that travel. Not so much at the work conference, but leading up to it and the travel, at least I'll have time. So as that's like a stressor in my mind right now, I wanted to read lots of light, fast-paced books leading up to that trip. Around like the second week of May. So I am, and I was already planning to participate in Horror Mayhem, but I definitely want to like just go whole hog with that because I can't watch horror movies really. Not the storyline, but it's like the jump scares. There's like really loud, bangy noises. Like they're done on purpose so that you'll jump, but I don't care for it. But I can read horror just fine, and it doesn't bother me. So I was already planning on participating in this event, but like, why not just really focus on that? But in addition to that, I was like, why not comb my shelves to see what books I have that are set in Florida? I've only been one time, and I was like too young to remember, and I was like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years old. So this is my first time as a fully conscious adult going to Florida. And so I wanted to see what I have. I have a lot of like Western books, just like nature and nonfiction related, just because like I live in Oregon, so they're easy to come by. Florida books are not, I mean, yeah, like the popular books are easier to find. But yeah, all that to be said, I was surprised how many Florida related books I have. And so I thought I would start out with talking about those Florida books, because I'm trying to like make peace with the trip. And I was like, why not? I'm not gonna have any time to see Florida really, except for what's outside my hotel window. But still, there'll be a little bit of driving here and there in between, going from place to place. So anyway, yeah, like I said, try to make peace with it. So I wanted to get excited for being in Florida. So I found a couple books on my shelf, more than I thought, like I said. So I have this E.O. Wilson Library of America edition. I've read Biophilia. I've never read The Diversity of Life or Naturalist, and I've read a couple other of E.O. Wilson's books, but not many. I feel like I should have read more, but this cover just I feel like just screams Florida to me. But when from what I remember from this author, and again, I should know more about him, considering I really like reading like the nature related writings. But I remember he was studying like ants and bugs in Alabama. I want to say he grew up in Alabama. So the Naturalist book in here is where I can find out more about him. It's like it seems to me to be like a memoir of sorts, and where he's in the Gulf in Alabama and Florida. So I wanted to read this one and like knock one of these books off my, doesn't sound right, knock one of these books off my shelf. No, yeah, read one of these Library of America books, because I've noticed I buy these Library of America editions, but I don't always gravitate towards them. Sawyer is jumping up to see what am I talking about. Hold on, let's see if I can get. Oh. What at all? Yeah. The blinking record button, I think, is what's getting him. And I don't think I've mentioned, like, I know I've mentioned him in the past, because he arrived on my doorstep literally in January as a stray cat, and I wasn't sure at first if I was going to be keeping him or if he would get along with my dog Fable, but he got along really well, and so I decided to name him Tom Sawyer, because he's like a tomcat. And but yeah, like, I think of like Tom Sawyer, like this like annoying, like little boy in a way, like kind of crafty and schemy, because that fits him. Because he's very resourceful and likes his own way. He's very much like a cat oh, like here he is. I don't know if you can catch it. He's biting my books. I don't know. He's full of like spunk, and he's also a punk. So like I feel like Tom Sawyer. It just fits with him. And I wanted, like, of course, like a bookish related name. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, I own a bunch of these books, but I back in, I want to say it was the fall, I got a Library of America edition from my library, and I was reading it on my Kindle. A whole slew of Nathaniel Hawthorne. Yeah, he's just jumping away at a book. Oh, yeah, well, so full of interruptions at the moment with all the animals. But yeah, so I borrowed a bunch of Nathaniel Hawthorne, like Library of America, a bunch of his books on one volume, and I zoomed through that book. But here I am owning the copies and not getting through them. Maybe it's like the smaller print, and it's like the ease of the e-readers. But anyway, so I've owned this book for quite a while, but I'm finally going to take this one off, The Naturalist. And then I have a Phyllis A. Whitney book. This is a book I've recently purchased, Poinciana. And I saw this took place in Palm Beach, Florida. And so she writes like the gothic romance, the gothic historical fiction. And they're always like at a different location all over the world. And I really like this like old-timey kind of cover. It's the Palm Beach home of Ross Logan. It contains his enigmatic past, his celebrated collection of oriental art, and a prized new possession, his terrified young bride. So we'll see what I think of that one. And then this is another book I recently got, James A. Missioner, on Recessional. I found this at a little free library. And this is another author where I've only read a handful of his books. I feel like I need to read a lot more of them. But this was interesting. This is taking place at a retirement center in Florida called The Palms. And it gives you a map. And it's like, yeah, it's a novel. So it seems like kind of different from his other books. And so I was like, why not give that one a go? And actually like read a book as soon as I get it. Like the as soon as I haul it, like that's fun. I don't do that often enough. The next one this isn't Florida related, but it's giving me the Florida feels. The View from Lazy Point, A Natural Year in an Unnatural World by Carl Safina. This is about Eastern Long Island, another place I've never been. Of course that area I want to see it, but I can read about it. Sorry for the additional interruption. But yes, another author. I've read several of his books. And they're always wonderful. I have to say, like, even though I've never read this book, I can probably already like wholeheartedly recommend it. But yeah, it's taking place in Eastern Long Island, and he writes like the nature kind of books. But this is takes a tour of the natural world in the course of a year in Eastern Long Island on his travels to the 4 points of the compass. Yeah, so highly looking forward to that. It's been too long since I've read a Carl Safina book. And then this last one for this theme of the Florida-ish books is My Southern Journey, True Stories from the Heart of the South by Rick Bragg. And I'm not sure if he necessarily goes to Florida, but he's going to Alabama, the Cajun country, and the Gulf Coast. And I feel like I've read a couple books by Rick Bragg. Again, an author that's like, I've read at least one book, but I can't remember off the top of my head which one it would be. But I know he's a popular author, and I like this kind of cover. Okay. So then I have some ebooks that I'm going to jump to the horror books at the end. Some ebooks that this is what I'm currently reading. A Century of Fiction in the New Yorker, 1925 to 2025. I really like the New York cartoons. I haven't delved so much into like the essays and short stories, but I saw this edition and this collection come out, and it's like this huge, really big book, like probably like 1,000 pages. I did not want to like bring that home to me and as a physical hardcover, but the ebook is perfect. And I'm slowly making my way through this book. I'm reading one story a night, and I'm currently in, I think, 1955. So I wanted to mention this because this is what I'm going to be reading throughout the whole entire month. It's going to take me a couple months to read it at the current pace. So let me see here. Then we have Larry McMurtry, All My Friends Are Going to Be Strangers. And I like this kind of old-timey cover. This is part of his Houston series. I read, Moving On, I was like blanking on the name. It was a reread for me. I read that and earlier this month. And because I was just in the mood as it's warming up, I'm thinking of like the westerns, you know, like for June on the Range and things like that. And so I was like, why not dive right in with Larry McMurtry, because he's written so many books. And I could easily read one each, even though it's like May is not, or April when I read the first one, it's not technically summer, but I could easily read like April through September each year and still have plenty of his books to get on with. But yeah, Moving On was a reread for me. It's following these college graduates, or like people in college and like the people associated with them during the 1950s. And it's following the main character, Patsy Carpenter, and she is being drugged all over the place because her husband can't decide exactly what he wants to do for a career. So he decides he's going to on a whim. He does all these things on a whim. He's going to photograph the rodeo people, and he's going to follow them through the summer. And so it jumps off from there. And so, yeah, it's a really good book. And so this is the second one in that Houston series. And this is one I've never never heard of as well. And then I guess Terms of Endearment is listed here. I think Terms of Endearment is part of that series, that Houston series as well. So that might be the third book. I've watched the movie for that one, but I haven't read it. And then there's a couple of more. I was reading, well, right now I'm currently reading a biography of Robert Frost, Now and Again, or Now and Then. I can't remember the title. But again, yeah, I'm reading that right now. And so, but then earlier this month, I was reading a gardening book in relation to Emily Dickinson, and this was for like National Poetry Month in April. And so instead of like sitting down and reading a poetry collection, which I do own a couple on the top shelf here, I decided to like read these like biography, theme focused, and the poetry all in one. And so because both biographies are of course including little clips here and there of the different poems. So all that to be said, I wanted to read more of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I've read a couple of his poems, but I really want to dive into poetry. And I've said this off and on throughout the years. I really want to like become more versed in it, more knowledgeable, because I'm the type of like poetry reader that I'll read through the poetry in my poem, and I might read it twice, but that's it. Like I feel like I'm not giving it the time that it needs. And maybe that's what my problem is. I'm just not patient enough. Like I want all the, like reading a short story. Like you can get all of your answers from reading it in one go. You know, maybe second, every time you read a book or, story, you know what I mean? You'll get more and more out of it, but you can at least understand what's going on. Whereas with poems, I feel like you have to like read between the lines and understand like the references and things like that. And I just want to become more patient and comfortable with it. Because also I'm reading what's on my nightstand here. I'm reading Gladys Tabor, and she's mentioning off and on through her book, talking about different poets. And so I need to read more of like the classics in a sense. So yeah, I wanted to read, this is the Song of Hiawatha. I was like, this, I don't know, this is the title of it's making me think of the summer as well. And I might read, I think another one is Evangeline by him that I might try. And then, yeah, so yeah, I have so many books I want to read in the month, because like I said, I have a lot going on, so I just want to focus on the reading. I don't want to think about the work stress, the work travel. I just want, if someone could just pay me to read, that would be great. This next one is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth Von Arnim. I saw several people talking about this month because we're in April, and I was like, okay, it's putting it on my radar, and I'm gonna read it in May. And I really, really like this cover. It's like a group of friends, and they're going on vacation, I think in Italy. Okay, then we'll go, because I have more horror books on my e-reader here. I wanted to finish up with the physical books that are not horror related. And as I was looking for the Florida books, I saw this. I was like, I want to read this too. So it's easy to chuck these on your TBR. You can have all the grand reading schemes, plans, that you can build, but it's just, I gotta make time for them. The Many Colored Land by Julian May. And like I said before, it's like not just the time for me that I'm struggling with, it's just my energy. I don't know, I've not experienced this. I mean, I have off and on experiences throughout my life, but just like, and I don't want to complain too much, but it's just the work is just taking over everything. Like, I am just so tired. I'm just so drained. I just haven't had the energy to read as much as I want to. But I'm determined. I'm determined. I'm gonna make time to read. So The Many Colored Land by Julian May. I got this book, I feel like 6 months ago. I got book 1 and 2. The book 1 has this cover, and then book 2 has the cover that's on the back of this one. And this is on the back of the second book, so it's kind of funny. But this is a series I've heard of, but I've never read it. This is The Flight into the Unknown, an orderly and peaceful interstellar society. The 21st century's galactic milieu had little place for the incurable adventurer, the secret psychotic, or the ruthless con man. So when a one-way time tunnel to Earth, 6 million BC, was discovered, every misfit for light years around hurried to pass through it, hungry for adventure, the romance of the unknown, and a life free of the milieu's stuffy rules. So yeah, it looks like lots of fun. And I'm just like, with it summer, I'm always in the mood for like these like chunky mass markets, because that's what I grew up reading, especially in the summer. And then speaking of horror and things I grew up with reading in the summer, we have Sweet Valley High. This is book 26, Hostage. I'm like slowly making my way rereading through the series. So this is Hostage, Can Anyone Save Regina Morrow? And this will fit in with Horror Mayhem. And then the next book in the series is number 27, Love Struck. Will Suzanne succeed in changing Ken? And so I'm immediately thinking like Ken from like Barbie. But yeah, these are like the soap opera, quick-paced YA books before YA was a thing. Okay, so switching gears back to my e-reader for some of the horror books, because I have a whole slew of them that I want to read. So, which is perfect for like, because I read horror books in October, and then, you know, it gives you an excuse to read them, you know, all throughout the year. The Elementals by Michael McDowell, another book I've seen talked about here on Booktube. But I don't think I've read this author, and I've heard of this book, but I can't remember what it's about, but I like the cover. So there's that. And then the last, I have one other one. Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is an author that's kind of hit or miss for me. I like his themes or his like initial ideas. I don't always like the execution or the writing style, but I've heard good things about this one. It seems to be like some kind of like horror IKEA. But hopefully I can read this on my Kindle without needing to read it on the iPad. Like, I will read books on the iPad if I have to, but it's not my preferred method considering the amount of computer screen time I have to dedicate each day. And then this last ebook for horror is Are You in the House Alone by Richard Peck. I read several of Richard Peck's books, but this is the first like horror or thriller book of his that I am giving a go. And I like the spooky cover. He writes like children's books. I can't think of it's like the ones I've read before is like following a family in like Illinois, and like they're moving around and things like that. So nothing horror related at all. More of like family drama. Okay, and then these last books are all like childhood, like I feel like 90s, 80s, and 90s kind of books. So when I thought of that, I immediately thought of like these R.L. Stine, like Fear Street and Goosebumps. So I have the next book in the series that I'm reading for this. I'm slowly making my way through the series, kind of like with the Sweet Valley High. The Sleepwalker by R.L. Stine, one of the Fear Street books. I think this is book 6, so I haven't made that much inroads into the Fear Street books, but slowly getting there. This is She Isn't Safe Even in Her Dreams, and I do like the spooky cover. When did these come out? This was from 1990, and it has a stamp saying Library of the R Family. With like these gruesome kind of, not gruesome, but it could be like bloodstains or something, like the R.L. Stine. Anyway, hopefully not. Then we have the first book in the Goosebumps series, Welcome to Dead House. I didn't read these books as a kid, but I remember watching the TV show. So I think all these Goosebumps books are gonna be new to me. Like these were like all the rage when I was a kid. I just didn't read them. But it will just kill you. And again, I really like the covers. But yeah, spooky old house. And then I've read book 3 and 4, but I don't have book 2, so I'm just jumping straight ahead to book 5, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, What Will Wake the Dead. I've never been that big of a fan of mummies, but I'll give it a go. And these are super quick. Okay, so speaking of Goosebumps, I follow and watch Cameron Chaney's Library Macabre. Is that his channel name? I'll leave a link in the description below. But he recently, he's all into like the throwback books and the horror books. But he did a recent video where he talked about Goosebump knockoff kind of series, and he mentioned Shivers, and I happen to have book 24. No idea where I got it, or I've never heard this series or what, but this is Ghosts of Devil's Marsh. And he was like some of them are like really spooky and other ones are just more like mysteries. But we'll see what I think of this one. And then yeah, lots of throwback kind of books from my childhood. There's a Dale Yearling book, The Witches of Worm by Zilpha Ketley Snyder. But the worm part, that's the name of a cat that's like evil. Kind of like my cat Sawyer in a way. I don't know. Okay, and then we have Lois Duncan. I did read her as a kid. I don't know if I read this one or not though. A Gift of Magic. Nancy can do things no one else can, and it's reminding me of Carrie because it's talking about how she can read minds and thoughts and she can like move things. Her whole family can do different abilities. So we'll see. And then we have a point book. Like the Point and the Point Horror were everywhere when I was a kid. This is The Invitation by Diane Ho. A Party Like No Other. It's RSVP or Die. And I read last year, I want to say maybe for Horror Mayhem, I read a Diane Ho. One of her colorful Nightmare Hall. One of these kind of books I remember reading last year. But see, I guess you read quite a few. Then we have Prom Night by Jessie Osborne. A night when anything can happen. A night never to forget. And I just feel like the spooky prom night, like how, I just feel like that fits right in with the horror, like YA kind of books. Yeah, A Night of Dreams and Shadows. Okay, and then this one, A Nightmare Inn, another series I've never heard of, maybe kind of knockoff of Fear Street and Gruesomes, I don't know. The Attic by T.S. Rue, A Night of Horror. Okay, and then The Secret Circle, it's called The Captive, and this is the author of Vampire Diaries. I've heard of that TV show, never read it or seen the show, but it says inside the circle, no chance of escape. So it's like, it's making me think of like these I have no idea, but it's making me think like these teenagers are all like, it's like peer pressure kind of thing. But it says, can the secret circle survive? Lured into the most popular in crowd imaginable, Cassie is intoxicated by her newfound strength, a power as addictive as it is perilous. This is book 2, but hopefully I can just dive right in and not be too lost. But I kind of like the cover. And then on the back, oh no, I thought they had glowing eyes, but no, I think that's just supposed to be her normal eye color. Yeah, she's kind of reminding me of like Keira Knightley. And then when I was looking through to find these books, I realized I had a comic book that would fit. I don't own that many comic books, but this is Blood Feud by Cullen Bunn, Drew Moss, and Nick Filardi. And it's a horror comic, so that it fits right in. It says, I got a story to tell. A story about how me and a couple of poker buddies squared off against the very legions of hell and maybe even saved the world. Like all good yarns, this one has its share of action, adventure, mystery, and romance. Okay. So yeah, we'll see what I think of this one. I like the cover. I like the spooky gothic trees, and hopefully the art style I'll get on with as well. There's lots of colors, lots of dark colors, and then it goes to yeah, lots of like blues and oranges. But it's been a while since I've read a comic book, so it'd be nice to get back into the swing of that. Cause I've gone through phases here and there with reading comic books. Like I can read a whole slew, and then I'll take like 6 months or a year off, and then go back in and read, I don't know, like 20 or so. Yeah, so it comes and goes in waves. But yeah, those are my plans for the month of May. I would love, like I said, I would love if I just like consumed all of these. That would be lots of fun, and it'll help me get through the month. Cause that's just what I need right now. I'm just fun, lighthearted
well, you know, horror isn't exactly lighthearted, but yeah, you know what I mean, like fun, fast paced, like get my mind off all of the things and just distract myself with books. But hopefully y'all have a good month with May reading as well, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.